Have you been trying to find or flip profitable cars, but just can't seem to find one that yields a good payday when it comes time to sell the car? Don't worry, in this video I'm going to show you the A to Z process of finding a car with genuine profit potential from the beginning. For more on every step of the car flipping process, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next weekly video. My name's Benjamin McShannock and welcome back to Ben Flips Cars. And using the methods I'm about to show you, I was able to find this fantastic condition Holden Cruise with a roadworthy certificate for just $3,200, which already has the profit potential to sell for a lot more. The first step, of course, is to start looking for some good deals on some online marketplaces. Unfortunately, in Australia, we don't have a tool like Auto Tempest, which our fellow Americans can use to search multiple car listing sites and marketplaces at the same time. So therefore, my go-to is Facebook Marketplace, as it's free for people to list cars here, meaning that you're more likely to find good cheap deals with profit potential. You can also have a look on eBay or Gumtree, and here in Australia, we of course also have Carsales. However, I wouldn't really bother going to look on Carsales, as it's the most reputable sales platform for cars in Australia. Therefore, people usually go there to sell their car for the highest price possible, meaning that you're not very likely to find a good deal on Carsales. So the next point, when looking for a car, our philosophy is to find a car that doesn't need much work, which enables you to invest the least amount of money and hence therefore allow for the most amount of profit, and it also enables a quick turnaround time. You're also wanting to look for a car that's priced under its typical market value, ideally something like a distressed sale, already has a roadworthy certificate, very important, as you need this to complete the transfer of registration amongst other things. And finally, ensure that you can make the car look brand spanking new within your skill range. Making it look brand spanking new, that's going to maximize your sale price and therefore your profit. If you can find a car that meets all these criteria, you're setting yourself up for success and therefore a profitable flip. If not, then you could be dead in the water before you even do anything to add value to the vehicle. So with all that being said, let's start looking for a good deal with profit potential. On Facebook, go to Marketplace and then scroll down and click on Vehicles. For this example, we were going for a lower budget flip, aiming to spend no more than $3,000 to $4,000. So we're going to go down and set the max price to $5,000. As normally, sellers will list their cars at a higher price than their bottom line that they're willing to sell it for. Don't worry about the year. And then for the mileage, put a max of 150,000 kilometers. Any more than that, it can be hard to find cars in decent condition or roadworthy condition for that matter. Plus, it'll be more difficult to sell the car at the end of the flip, as if you're going to say 200,000 Ks or beyond, there's not a huge market for cars with over 200,000 Ks, and certainly that market isn't willing to pay high prices for those cars, obviously. Now with our filters applied, we can start looking through cars. So I'll open a few tabs that catch the eye here. So command click, for example, this 2011 Holden Cruise. Nissan Micro, that says $100, which means it's likely just been parted out, so won't look at that. Another Holden Cruise here, $4,900. This Volvo 2011 XC60, Holden Barina, Mazda 2, this Toyota Yaris, this Nissan Tita, and just keep going on and opening up any tabs of cars that look like they could be of interest. Do you disagree with any of the points I've touched on so far? Let me know in the comments. I'm always curious to hear other people's perspectives. If you haven't seen my video on how to make money by fixing up a car, I'll pop it up in the corner now for you to go check out after you finish watching this video. It'll also be at the end screen of the video. Now let's look up the top of these tabs that we've opened. The key points that we're looking for is 1, includes roadworthy. So let's see. In this case, it says head gasket problem, no time to fix, nearest offer will do. Meaning, in other words, it's not going to be sold with a roadworthy if it has a head gasket issue, so we can get rid of that. Then on this next one, you can see down here, it says roadworthy can do with an additional fee, so we're going to leave that for now. If you can see that it's going to include roadworthy, next you want to see that it includes an unexpired registration and number plates. So looking at these pictures, you can see clearly it does include plates which they've blacked out, which they often do. And it also says, and it'll come with rego, so no worries, we have rego, so we can still keep this car here. The next thing we want to look for is to make sure that the car is an automatic transmission. As you can see coming up, it is an auto, and also if we look through the pictures, unfortunately it doesn't have an interior picture showing the transmission. That's the only thing we have, the sunroof. But if it says automatic transmission, we'll take it at face value there and assume it does, of course. Automatic transmissions are far more popular here in Australia, meaning they'll sell quicker and also for more money. You only really want to venture into manuals if it's an enthusiast type car, but for this lower budget flip, we're definitely not going to be thinking about manuals, just going for an auto in this case. You also want to look to make sure it has no major damage on difficult to replace panels or upholstery parts or any other parts in general. Looking through the car, it looks like it's in pretty clean condition. Can't see any major standout damage straight away. Maybe a little bit of curb rash on the wheel, but nothing too bad there. Most cars are going to have curb rash that are a bit older in this lower budget market that we're looking through. Looks like there's maybe a bit of waviness or a bit of a dent on the bonnet there. Once again, no big deal. Let's go and look through some other cars and see if we can find an example of the type of damage you'd want to avoid. Here's why we don't want this car. Look, no number plates, which I'm assuming means it won't have rego. Yep, no rego, no roadworthy, so we're going to get rid of that anyway. This is a manual trans here in the description, and no rego or roadworthy, so get rid of this car as well. This one comes with rego and roadworthy. Beautiful. Now here's more the kind of damage I'm talking about. It is the bumper, so that's not always a big deal. You can usually just get a bumper from a wrecker and replace it, or even fix up the bumper yourself, although it is slightly more on the expensive side if you're going to be looking for bumpers, but bumpers are designed to be taken on and off cars and a relatively easy panel to replace. This car also has a manual transmission, so get rid of that. Finally, we open this Nissan Tita, rego, roadworthy, all there. Here's more an example of maybe some slightly more difficult to replace damage. It looks like that's a part of the door, so you'd either have to have someone really good pull out that dent from the door, which costs a lot of money, unless you can do it yourself, which if you can, you're very skilled, or you're gonna have to replace the whole door, which also costs a lot of money. You can see again, this bumper has some peeling paint. Oh, hang on, this is a manual, so we're gonna get rid of this as well. Through all these listings, I'm not spotting any major damage that I can really give you an example of, but basically any major crash panel damage that's gonna obviously be difficult to repair or replace. Those are the sort of things you want to avoid. You also want to make sure there's no modifications, which can be hard to tell, but if you just have a quick look through the pictures, sometimes you'll spot some obviously modified custom wheels or some custom parts on the car. Sometimes it'll also touch on it in the description. And the other thing we want to look for in the description is if there's any issues with the car in general, and if the car doesn't work as should in any way, like if it has a bad infotainment system, or if the aircon doesn't work, or something like that. These two cars that we've found, they both seem to be okay, besides this major damage on the rear bumper here. But at the end of the day, they both fit within all the things we were looking for that I've just mentioned. Some general tips that could help you search are, as I said before, look for distressed sales. If it says something in the caption, something like "need gone soon as I'm moving away," that could be a sign of a distressed sale. Usually a distressed seller is far more willing to negotiate, and that was sort of the case with this car behind me, as this car's rego was about to expire and the seller wanted to get rid of it before that happened. Another tip, make sure you look at the crappy ads, the crappy listings with bad pictures or no pictures and very little in the description that are lacking in detail overall. Those listings obviously won't be getting much attention, meaning for one, you could negotiate a lower price, and there could also be gems hiding in those crappy ads, hidden by the crappy listing. Another point worth noting, if a listing's been up for a couple of weeks, it'll say up in the listing, listed 2 weeks ago or however long it's been listed. The seller will be getting impatient at that point and become more willing to negotiate as time goes on. Here's an important point. If you do come across a good deal, like I did with this car, you must go and see that car, that deal, as soon as possible, because it's likely to be snatched up quickly. I went and saw this car just a few hours after I found the listing, because I knew that if I waited a day or two, like I would have had to otherwise, it would have been gone already. Final tip, try to stick to cars you see commonly on the roads. These Holden Cruisers, extremely common, and this means it'll be easier to find wrecks of, source parts for, and address any issues the car may have, because it's likely many people before you have had to address those same issues if the car is really popular. Now, it makes sense for me to take you through the listing of the car that I actually have now and that I'm going to be working on for this flip. So you can see it's slightly over our Ks, 155,000, but it's still right around that 150,000 mark. It just so happened to pop up in my suggested, and it happened to be a good option. So the criteria it was meeting for us, of course, was for one, the car will come with roadworthy, so it had a roadworthy certificate, the most important bit. It included number plates, you can see they were scribbled out. Rego was until February 2025, so I was looking at this in late January, still had rego. It was an automatic transmission, which if we go to the, no, it doesn't show it in the pictures, but you can see, of course, in the listing, it said it was an automatic transmission. It had no major major damage that I could spot around the car. It looked like it was in relatively clean condition. The only thing was this little bit of damage on the bumper here. But once again, as said, I knew I could either replace the bumper or repair it myself. It's not too big of a deal, and I could get a better inspection of it in person to double check and make sure. And it didn't show much of the interior besides literally just that picture there. So I knew I was just going to have to inspect the interior in person, but there's nothing in the description about any bad interior, although that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It could still definitely have it. Anyway, I knew I was going to have to inspect it to figure it out. You could also see there was this bit of damage on the trim on the mirror here. Not too big of a deal. That can easily be repainted or have that part replaced. There was no mention of any particular issues with the car in general. It's, I was saying, very reliable car, and it mentions that it's had some service done, tires, brakes, all that good stuff. So there was no real red flags in this listing that made me think it was worth culling. And also the price, when I first saw it, I think it was $4,100 from memory, but it went down to $36, and then I knew I had to go see this because it would go quickly otherwise, as I've mentioned multiple times throughout the video. And of course, no modifications either. So once you find a car like this, by going through the process that I've shown you so far, when you find a car that meets all those criteria I've just mentioned, to know for sure whether the car has profit potential or not, we need to run it through a series of price guide and estimation tools, which I'll be covering in depth in the next video. So be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it. I'll also have it pop up in the corner of this video once it's released. Once again, if you missed my video on how to make money by fixing up a car, it should be up on screen now. If you have any questions, drop them in a comment below or to message me directly. I'm on Instagram and TikTok, also at Ben Flips Cars. Please hit the like button to help me out with the YouTube algorithm and subscribe so you don't miss the next weekly video. My name's Benjamin McShannock, and thank you very much for watching Ben Flips Cars.